To the SuperCoach Enough channel. In this video we're going to do our tops, chops, traps and slaps for a SuperCoach round 5. So for those that are new to this concept, how it works is a bit like a buy, hold, sell sort of deal, just with different wording to differentiate us from the crowd. But obviously if we've got a trade-in option that's quite good, well then that's tops. If they've got a trade out option that's quite good, well, we'll give them the chop. If we've got a trade in option that's a bit dicey, well, then it's probably a trap we want to avoid. And if we're trading someone out that we shouldn't, we need to give ourselves a slap. So we'll go through the positions starting at hooker as per usual. So I guess the top trade-in option this week is Harry Grant. So a lot of people not starting him or not having him in the team due to him being on the bye last week. So obviously if you're in that boat, you can now freely bring him back into the team. Yeah, not much to be said about it. Best hooker in the game. You've got to get him in your team at some point, so why not now? And on the chopping block, we've got Joey Lussick. So I guess, it looked really good a couple of weeks ago. He's playing 80 minutes, crushing it. And then out of nowhere, Brendan Hands comes back into the team. I think it must have been a late change because I did not see it at all. I was away on the weekend, so I didn't see a lot of the footy. But, obviously if that's going to be the case, well then, we can probably get out of the pick. He's made a bit of money. We'll just take that and run. The trap this week, I've gone with Tyson Smoothie from the Broncos. So, a lot of people see the price and, he scored well last week. He's got a good break even. But, he's a bench hooker. We don't want bench hookers in our team. They just don't have consistent enough minutes and therefore consistent enough scoring. So if you had him in your team, well done. You just got lucky. But, we don't want those bench hookers in our team. And I guess the other public service announcement for this week is with our slap option with Blake Brayley. So not the most popular in terms of ownership, but if you're trading out players that are on a buy, you need to give yourself a slap. All right, everyone has a buy at some point. You can't work it so that everyone's playing every week. It's not how the game works. All right, that's why we have a squad of 25, is you can bring players in. So obviously, if you've got Brayley, just hold and he'll be back next week. Into the front row forwards, and the tops pick this week, I've gone with Tom Flegler. So I feel like he may have featured last week as well, but my memory's not that great. However, he just looks like he's, the leader of that pack of the Dolphins. And I'm purely basing that on the numbers. Again, I didn't see the game on the weekend. But, I know I've currently got him and Terrell May as my two front row forwards. Oh no, sorry, that's in Sports Deck. I have Cotter and Supercoach. It's been a big weekend. I'm still recovering a bit. But, if I was going to try to bring in another forward, I'd probably lean towards Flegler. And even if it was a second row I was trading out, I could obviously slide Cotter into my second row. So, I think if you're looking for a front row forward, get Flegler. On the chopping block, I've gone with Palacia. So, out with a quad injury. So, I think he was a late out from the team last week from memory. But I know people still have him, and, he is well and truly on the chopping block. The trap, I've gone with Josh Kerr. So, he scored 2 tries in 3 games so far. That's not going to continue. So a bit like Smoothie, there is an argument that some bench forwards have value. Terrell May, for example. But, if they're relying on scoring tries, well, that's not the smartest option. So he is attractive at the price, the break even, the dual position, but, avoid Josh Kerr. And the slap is for Adam Fanua-Blake. So he was one of the best options to trade in last week with Big Tino out injured for the season. Obviously, Payne Haas is still a few weeks away. So, you know, reasonable enough to think that Fanua Blake probably is the number one front row forward in the Supercoach game. Um, just because he had one bad week doesn't mean you should chop him. Even if it was for a Flegler or a May, I'd find another way to get those guys in and, keep adding Fanua Blake because as soon as you trade him, he'll score a try like he does, tackle breaks, all that sort of stuff, and you'll be kicking yourself. Onto the second row forwards, and the top pick this week I've gone with Kai Pearce-Paul. So it looks like he's well and truly established on that left edge. Um, he's still got a bit of money to make, so obviously we're not getting him at bottom dollar, but we're probably not going to get him cheaper this season either. So, I think if you want to get on, now's the time to do so before it's too late potentially. And on the chopping block, I've gone with Satili Tupanua. So, um, relegated to the bench this week. Angus Crichton named to start. So he had iffy minutes beforehand. It's probably even more iffy now. So if you've got him, you can feel free to chop him. The trap this week, I've gone with Jackson Ford. So obviously was a beast for us last year in Supercoach and had a great game on the weekend. But I guess the reason why he was so good last year was he was way cheaper. He's priced at his average, which is that 50 to 60 sort of mark. He'll hit that every week. And, if he gets a try like he did last week, it'll spike up towards the three figures. But yeah, you're not expecting that 100 every week. He'll revert to 60s and won't really make any money. Um, there's probably more value in other picks. So, I'd steer clear of Jackson Ford. And the slap is this week is Bo Fermor. So when I was just trying to find an option that people were trading out, I was honestly shocked to see how many people that were trading out Bo Fermor. So obviously the Titans aren't doing great, but he plays 80 minutes on the edge. He's been in the conversation for Origin in the past. Just injuries probably haven't helped him out with that. And yeah, I think he's solid but not spectacular. And honestly, there's not too many sort of players jumping out of the ground screaming "pick me." You know, I'd probably, there's probably even an argument to say that if you're trading him to Kai Pearce-Paul, I'd suggest find a different way. Onto the halves, halfbacks, I should say. And I guess the best option this week I've got is Sean Johnson. So I guess the reason why we were steering clear of him previously was he wasn't goal kicking, but with Metcalf out, it looks like that he's back in the goal kicking frame. And I guess, if you are looking at replacing one of Cleary or Hines, um, you probably want to have a view to the buys, because obviously Cleary will be playing for New South Wales. Whether they find room for Hines, probably not on current form. So, um, yeah, if you're going to make a play like that, you'd want someone who's guaranteed to play um, and, obviously won't be impacted by Origin. And SJ is probably the best bet. Um, on the chopping block, we've gone with Luke Brooks. So, a few people have made a bit of cash out of him and that, but, you know, poor game on the weekend or low scoring game. I didn't see the game to see if it was poor or not. Playing Penrith this week, so you'd imagine another tough one for him. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of value in these middling halfbacks. I mean, if you've got him at 5'8", there's cheaper options available that you could go to. Um, but yeah, I can definitely see a world where you get rid of Luke Brooks. The trap this week, and doesn't look like many people have fallen for it because if anything, his ownership is lower at the moment. But Tyron Wishart, so still has a nice negative break even, but is back to playing that bench role where he come on with maybe 10 minutes to go, score 5 points, and completely ruin his cash gen and break even in 1 week. So um, yeah, don't bring in Tyron Wishart. Cam Munster's back now as well, so and Jerome Hughes back from suspension, so they're just not really a viable avenue to get him into the team. And once again this week, the slap, I've gone with Nathan Cleary. I feel like if you've held him this long, he's said that he's going to be back after the bye. So, you've got this week, obviously, he's not playing. Next week, he's on the bye anyway. So, realistically, if you had him in the team, you've only missed him for 2 games. And as a rule, if he's out for 2 games, you hold. And again, it's one of those things like, where's the better option? Like, I've suggested SJ, but realistically, I wouldn't do Cleary to SJ. I wouldn't do Hines to SJ this week. Um, just trying to give you an option. But yeah, particularly if you're like me and in the situation where you've got Cleary and Hines, I think I'm actually going to take the auto emergency because across the season, Hines and Cleary will outscore whatever option I bring in, and it'll cost me 2 less trades. Onto the 5/8s, and so the best trading option this week in what is not the best position at the moment for options, but I've gone with Tom Dearden. So partially because they are playing the Titans this week, and that's been success for any attacking player from the teams they've played so far, but also Dearden offers that nice coverage through the first buys. And you'd imagine with Munster back now, he's got enough time to play himself into form and fitness for Origin. So I don't think we need to worry about Dearden there. So yeah, so if you are looking for a 5/8 pick, he'd be the one I'd go to this week. On the chopping block, unfortunately, we've got Luke Metcalf. So obviously, big fan of his. But he's broken his leg. Unfortunately, he's not had a good run with injuries over the past few years. Um, so yeah, obviously, if you've got him, swapping to Dead won't cost much money. Uh, you know, Galvin is unfortunately out for a couple of weeks, so you can't do that trade necessarily this week. Um, but even if you were to go, say, Kyle Flanagan, I think would be okay. So a couple of options there. But obviously, I've put Dearden as the number one. The trap this week, I've gone with Aiden Caesar. So I guess with Galvin out, a lot of people are thinking, oh, Caesar's going to, have a bit more influence, but he's never been super coach relevant, even though, he kicks goals and does that. He's more of that organising halfback, sort of in the Adam Reynolds type mould. Um, so for that reason, we're not going to go there. And the slap, I think it's a pretty obvious one, but Lockie Galvin, um, he is suspended for 2 weeks, but realistically, you're going to want him back after those 2 weeks. It's not worth 2 trades to bring in anyone. Like I said, there's no one setting it on fire in the 5/8 position other than Galvin, who is now suspended. So onto the centre wings, and I forgot to put the best buy on, but clearing away the best buy this week is Blaze Talangi from the Eels. So he's playing in the halves as a centre wing. That's nice. And while the score wasn't necessarily there on Monday, Supercoach wise, from all reports, he looks the real deal. So whoever you've got to trade out to bring him in, I think you can do that. There is plenty of great options on the chopping block this week. The one I've highlighted is Ronaldo Mulatalo. So I know I've had him as a trap previously, but I guess the argument was for those who did bring him in or had him was he'll make some money and then he's got a buy in round 5. We'll flip him then. And I guess if you're trading him to Talangi, that's a nice chunk of change that you can use elsewhere. If you're trading him to another gun, well then that's fine too. The trap this week, there wasn't a lot going on, so I went with Connor Tracy. Just sort of his score was boosted by 2 tries. Against the Roosters this week, I think it might be a tougher week for the Dogs, as much as that hurts me to say, as a fan. But yeah, just threw him in just to say, don't go off one game. Not to say that he's a bad player, but he's not going to score 90 every week, and probably not this week. And not on the slap list again this week, I've gone with Taylor May. So it's one of these ones, he doesn't offer a lot of value. Even if you're trading him to Talangi, you're only making a couple 100,000. I think for his price, he still offers good value. He just hasn't got the attacking stats yet, but they will come. Um, I guess the more that Penrith attack down their right side, defences will sort of shift left, and that will then create space on the left side, and Penrith are good enough to exploit that. So, as a non-owner, I'm cheering that he hasn't got away in price because I do want to try and get him after his bye. So I am hoping for one more quiet game this week. But even if he goes off, well then I'll just have to trade him in like everyone else will after his bye. And onto the fullbacks. So I think the top pick this week is Ryan Pappenhausen. So obviously coming off the bye, um, and before that, that massive 130 game, I think it was. So he's going to make some good cash. Excuse me, got itchy nose. Um, yeah, so I think it's pretty straightforward if you are bringing in a fullback this week, that it's Ryan Pappenhausen. On the chopping block, I've gone with Tane to a picky again. So a few people might have been hanging on in the hope that CNK was delayed, but he's been named to play. Um, so trade out to a picky. He'll be relying on another injury to come back in. Um, Trap this week, I've gone with Dylan Edwards, and partly because he's on the bye next week, but partly also because he's not going to score that 120 every week. He does have that spike game in him, but he does also offer up, a bit of a lower floor than some of the other fullback options. So I'd avoid Dylan Edwards. And probably the biggest slap of the week goes to the people that are trading out Tommy Turbo. Like, you brought him in because he's got the highest ceiling of any player in the game. He had one sort of down game last week in terms of his scoring, and often we, say fullback isn't a position where you can carry um, players out of form or fitness and that. But Tommy Turbo's not that, he's in and around the ball all the time. I guess the only reason I haven't gone with him was I wanted to start with Ponga. I was scared of Ponga getting away from us, but then also the form of Teddy, just made it an easy switch. Freed up some cash as well, which was nice. But definitely want to get Turbo in the near future. So if you're trading him out, reverse it. You know, do something else with your trades this week. But I think that wraps it up nice and quick. So hopefully, you got some insight there. Obviously, if you've got any comments, questions, thoughts, feel free to add them below the video. Give us a like if you enjoyed the SuperCoach content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content we've got on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.